Hello everybody and welcome. The second Trump administration is signaling a new strategic approach towards its NATO allies in Europe. And that begs the question, how can Europe defend itself without America in the case of a Russian invasion in the East? Well, first, let's look at the current chessboard for European defense. The US military installation is situated across a diagonal on what can be seen as the old frontier between East and West. With the fall of the Soviet Union, NATO expanded east, and so did American military presence. It's important to note that American forces in Eastern Europe are stationed on rotation, unlike the others in Western Europe that are deployed with their families. The following map shows Europe's dependency on American assistance. America's main presence in Europe is in Germany with roughly 40,000 troops. Next, it's Poland with 14,000. Italy with 12.6 thousand, and the UK with 10,000 troops. In case of an invasion, the first line of defense is NATO's tripwire force along the western borders of Russia, Belarus, Ukraine, and Moldova. They are comprised of several nations, including the US, but not remotely enough in numbers to stop a Russian attack. Its purpose is to detect it and hold on until reinforcements arrive. The first ones are NATO's Tier 1 force, 100,000 men, ready to join the front lines in 10 days. Most of them are American. Next, it's NATO's Tier 2 force, 200,000 men, ready to fight within a month. The number of European troops that would integrate this tier varies between 60,000 and 100,000, depending on different estimates. Either way, it is safe to assume that around half of the Tier 2 forces would have to be American, brought in from the homeland. Lastly, there's Tier 3, if necessary. 500,000 men ready for combat in 6 months. Once again, most of these men would be American, since Europe is far from being prepared for such mobilization. Nations from the old continent have neglected their security concerns until very recently and are now racing to catch up. In short, 300,000 men for the first month and 500,000 more if the war can't be won quickly within 30 days. This is just the size of the armies involved in the actual fighting, but it's not just about summoning 300,000 men to war in 30 days. These men should be in top physical shape, supplied with food and ammo, with vehicles fueled and ready for use. Command structures and logistics should also be prepared. All of this takes time and money to prepare and maintain with regular drills. After all, this is called force readiness, and European forces are far from this level of preparation. US troops, on the other hand, would come in large and cohesive units under a unified command. Furthermore, US troops are backed by American enablers, something European militaries lack. We'll come back to enablers later in this video. So, what must Europe do? Number 1. Replace US troops. Looking at the numbers, these are the figures around military capability. Europe could, and probably should, create a pan-European force in a permanent state of readiness, positioned permanently in Eastern Europe, where they're needed and able to respond quickly to a crisis. This shouldn't be a problem. Collectively, European NATO countries have 1.86 million soldiers. It's not an issue of size. Spain and Italy's armies, for instance, have 122,000 and 160,000 troops respectively. France has 202,200 and Germany almost 180,000. Before we move any further, if you like what you're seeing, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to the channel. 2 clicks make all the difference and help the channel grow. Thank you. Number 2, operate the same equipment. Working with different equipment poses logistical and maintenance problems in case European troops have to be deployed and fight together. The European Union developed the SAFE instrument, 150 billion euros in loans to incentivize countries to buy the same equipment and finance urgent and large-scale procurement efforts. It's the first pillar of the European Commission's aim to unlock over 800 billion euros in defense spending across the EU until 2030. The EU can do this on a larger scale, going to capital markets and collectively borrowing the best credit rating possible. With these additional funds at their disposal, they would easily increase their military equipment, boost military industrial production, and integrate the same equipment across different nations. Creating a single procurement authority instead of the existing 27 different ones would significantly reduce the costs and save time. Number 3. Expand stockpiles. Europe is severely handicapped in this aspect as well. Decades of disinvestment coupled with the need to assist Ukraine has left European stockpiles at low capacity and whose factories cannot keep up with demand. Europe needs artillery ammunition, long-range strike capabilities, HIMARS for instance, UAVs, drones, missile defense systems and interceptors, and armored vehicles. Number 4. Mitigate dependencies on US enablers. Next, we have enablers, which we have mentioned before. The army that supports the army. It is actually here that lies Europe's biggest weakness. Logistics, surveillance, manning headquarters, and doing everything else so those on the front lines have everything they need. Think about air tankers to keep fighter jets in the air, or transport planes to move troops from one battle zone to another. Resources are spread or uneven, such as military command capable of commanding a massive army, as a NATO army would be. In this case, only an American command can do it. Another example is military equipment. Poland, for instance, acquired hundreds of HIMARS, but then lacks in surveillance capability to be able to use them with precision, since HIMARS need to be fired at long range. In some cases, as highlighted in the chart, Europe is completely dependent on US support, such as intelligence and satellite communications. Number 5. Build redundant command structures. Since the Trump administration seeks to pull back from the European theater and concentrate on the Pacific, it doesn't make much sense to have European countries fighting under an American command. NATO works under the direction of SECURE, the Supreme Allied Commander Europe, who is always a top US general. NATO is run almost exclusively by the Americans, since there is doubt that even France, the UK, or Germany have the military leadership capable of running such a massive-sized continental army. A new command structure is needed for an independent European defense. Finally, political will. For decades, Europe rested on American protection. Now, reality has caught up with reticent leaderships, who are now scrambling to build Europe's arms and weapons factories whilst buying weaponry from the Americans. European leaders must be prepared to make tough decisions. For instance, what cuts to make in the yearly budget in order to allocate funds to defense. These are unpopular decisions that can affect election outcomes, since no one wants cuts in health, education, or infrastructure. Two examples are France and the United Kingdom. Both have severe fiscal constraints at present, with France experiencing a 2024 budget deficit of 5.8% and the United Kingdom of 5.3%. Europe had plenty of time to prepare. There were plenty of warnings. The Ukraine war reached its high point with the February 2022 invasion, but Russia had already annexed Crimea back in 2014, with fighting taking place in eastern Ukraine since then. We could go back even further, when Russia supported separatist forces in 2008 in Georgia. This is the European problem, and there is much to be done. Thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next time.